Okay, so we are live. I'm still getting used to looking at a different place for the camera. We have a real camera, which is slightly higher resolution than I would have loved. And I have a microphone, which hopefully is picking things up better. Still waiting on some better lighting options, although in this room it's not as big of an issue. So, for our town hall this week, I thought I would start with some happy news and small actions we can do. If you have any questions, I'm seeing people start to pop on. Type them in the live chat. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. So, as far as good news, we did have a Supreme Court ruling that came out this week that basically said, hey, you can't discriminate against people at work if they are transgender, and that's important. I mean, we need to be protecting who among the least of us, right? So, um, if you are not experiencing this sort of discrimination, it seems like something that's maybe not important to you. But who we are and how protected we are as a society is based on how much we protect those who are most vulnerable. So we should always be looking to the most vulnerable in our society and seeing where our flaws for them are, and how we can better protect and support that group, whatever that group ends up being at any given point in time, because that really tells us about the safety net we have for all of us and how well protected and how safe all of us are. One thing that happened this week that I found to be very disappointing is Maine is a really interesting Senate race. So, of the four Democrat candidates that we have had in the race this year, now we're down to three, but of four of them, three of four fell into the GLBT world. And now we have two of three. We also have an independent that is in that category. And what I found to be incredibly disturbing is, though we have somebody who's gay, we have somebody who's non-binary, we have a trans woman, all in the race, and that's very diverse and very interesting and brings some good, fresh perspectives. Not only have they been sort of systemically erased throughout the race, it didn't seem like the news was picking up their perspectives on yesterday's rulings, and that's a little surprising and a little bit heartbreaking. We should be um, getting everybody's opinion who's in the race on a regular basis so that people can compare opinions. But if there is an issue that disproportionately impacts one of the candidates, we should be having that candidate speak a little louder. And so the positive thing that I wanted to talk about that we could do that's a little thing is, passing the microphone. It is not a penalty to other candidates, particularly in a ranked choice vote race, to have the grace to say, okay, well, I'm going to get my time, so it's not a big deal. What we need to do is make sure that we're passing the microphone and making sure that lesser candidates or candidates that aren't getting the same exposure are getting that. And I don't think that that harms campaigns. I don't think that that makes you a worse candidate. I think that makes you a best candidate. We should be applying that standard. So one of the things I've had people say to me is, "Oh my gosh, if you were in office, there's no way you wanting to include all the other candidates," and that's just not true. If I were a senator right now and I were running a contested race, I would actually ask that they have coverage of the other candidates in the race, because even if I disagree with them or they're coming for the jugular, they're still constituents and they're still people who have put forward themselves to in the public sphere. And I think that's commendable and we should be working on that. And I want to see us apply that to everything. So if you're seeing some Black Lives Matter things and you're seeing only white voices get lifted up, that doesn't mean that you can only have an opinion on things if you have a are that specific demographic. But what it does mean is that you should make sure that the voices that's most important to should also have an audience, or maybe be the focal point of that audience. It's okay to pass the microphone to somebody else and let somebody else have a turn on something that really impacts them. And so, what I want to encourage people to do is to really push back on media, push back not just on candidates, but push back and say, we need to be making sure we're elevating voices that have something to say on these topics, and maybe even not giving as much attention to people who don't have something meaningful, substantive, or of value to say on these topics. Because what we've done for a very long time is we've had a narrative that was controlled by people who weren't impacted. And that's something that we need to change. You will see as a part of my campaign, yeah, I'm a boring white middle aged mom, but there actually is not very much of that in Congress. We need a little bit more of that in Congress. We need a little bit more where people who are underrepresented are represented to say, let's get some laws that work for all of us. So my hope is that we take the good ruling that came out this week and we build on that. And I also wanted to tell everybody how happy I am that there have been sustained protests and how thrilled I am that people are continuing to keep issues on the radar. And that also is not getting media. So we need to be demanding that the microphone gets passed on that too. We have cities that have spent more than 2 weeks doing daily sustained protests. Let's make sure that they're getting some action. I don't have a lot of questions tonight, and I actually have a little bit of a sunburn, so I'm going to call it a short night unless anybody else has questions. Um, Looking forward to the next week. I am still seeking signatures, so if you are wanting to sign, please reach out to me. Still working on ballot access. And there is upcoming on Friday, there is Juneteenth. There's going to be celebrations, not just in Maine, but elsewhere. It's something that is really important to communities, that we commemorate that event with the same gusto that we do to others. It's very important that we're talking about, hey, slavery ended. This is a big deal. We should really, focus on um, what good can come out of that. So please go and support community members, even if it's not your demographic. Your voice holding them up is something that's important and meaningful. So I will be in Portland on Juneteenth. I hope to see you. I hope to see you there. I'm going to be registering voters, collecting signatures, helping other candidates, and hopefully we'll get a chance to connect. If not, I will see you Saturday at 8 a.m. and you can always find me online.